registered psychotherapist qualified in Ontario, and every night I'm sharing science-based psychology on my YouTube channel. And today we will be discussing about overthinking, about procrastination problems. If you find yourself feeling anxious or procrastinating certain things, and if you are experiencing challenges with focusing, staying focused on your goals, motivation, and time management, today can be useful for you, and you can find a lot of strategies or thoughts that might help you to cope better with these challenges. Maybe you are struggling with focusing, procrastination, time management, and productivity. Maybe you might be feeling overwhelmed, or you are noticing some perfectionist features and motivation. And today we will be discussing about acceptance commitment therapy and solution focused brief therapy strategies that you can apply right away for yourself. Ask yourself different questions, and also about neuroscience, what's happening in your brain while you are feeling certain way or you are experiencing certain challenges. So this webinar maybe is not about being disciplined, but it's more about why smart people procrastinate, why overthinking destroys focus, and why motivation comes and goes, why plans fail, and why people know what to do but struggle to do it, and how to build sustainable productivity without feeling burnout, and how to stop fighting yourself and start moving forward. So first of all, why, even if you know that you need to do certain things, but sometimes it can be difficult to focus, follow through, or get things done. And this webinar is not about becoming more disciplined, but more about understanding yourself better, understanding what you want instead. And these questions would help you to understand how you can achieve that version of you or that change that you are waiting for or you are trying to achieve. So by the end of this webinar, maybe you would feel less ashamed, less anxious, less less anxious, more hopeful, more focused, and more capable, more motivated. And before we talk about productivity, planning, focus, or time management, I want to start from a different perspective. I want to start with you, the person sitting here tonight. Maybe you are exhausted, maybe you feel tired, maybe you feel frustrated with yourself, maybe you have an unfinished projects and you might have tried to download productivity applications. Maybe you bought some planners, watched countless videos, read books about discipline, and promised yourself that you are going to do certain things next week, and that next week will be different. And maybe somehow you still find yourself overwhelmed, distracted, and behind. If that's you, I want to tell you something, that you are not alone. A lot of us are struggling with the same challenges. A lot of us, we are promising to do certain things, and sometimes we have some challenges with following through. And you are certainly not only intelligent, capable, hardworking person who struggles with this. Generally, people who have higher IQs or higher levels of empathy are more anxious, and this anxiety and uncomfortable feelings are because they care about their career, about their time, efforts, about their knowledge, and that's why they are experiencing these feelings when they cannot follow up with the plans or when they cannot complete everything they have planned because of these factors. According to research, consistent procrastination and productivity struggles are common human experiences rather than signs of laziness or lack of intelligence, and everyone is experiencing these challenges at certain points of their lives. And many people who appear highly successful on the outside privately might be struggling and experiencing exactly the same feelings and internal experiences that you are struggling with. And the only difference might be is that they never feel overwhelmed, but they learn how to regulate their emotions and how to respond to these uncomfortable internal experiences such as thoughts, feelings, or external stress differently than all others do. And tonight I want to help you understand how your mind works, because when you understand yourself and your mind, you stop fighting yourself You stop fighting your thoughts, and you can choose on how to respond to these thoughts and internal experiences differently, and this would create a chance for you uh, for for behavior, for action, maybe some more time for yourself, or time to focus, or time to work. Imagine, for instance, for a moment that your relationship with time management, or stressors, or things that are making you stressed or exhausted has already changed, and you become a disciplined, productive, confident, or calm version of you, or contributing version of you. So first of all, trying to understand who do you want to be in the middle of these struggles, uncomfortable feelings, or stressors is important. Maybe you want to be disciplined, maybe you want to be calm, resilient, maybe you want to be contributing. So maybe you would start to trust yourself more. Maybe you would wake up and would realize what matters for you, and those overthinking or a lot of thoughts or feelings will stop disturbing you so much, and you will then somehow to shift your attention towards why you are here, what matters for you, and you would be able to focus on those factors, and you follow through maybe more often. You spend less time criticizing yourself and more time moving forward and taking action. And how would that look like? What would you notice about yourself that's being different? How would you know that that version of you is already present? What would your mornings look like? How would your evenings be different? What would your future self thank you for starting today? And maybe you would keep that image in your mind, that preferred version of you, the best version of you, whom you want to become, because the direction of change often starts with a clear picture of what we want and where we want to go. So the real reason is that you cannot focus is not because something wrong with your mind or brain. It's a normal response of human brain whenever there is stress, or whenever you feel worried, or there are uncomfortable internal experiences. It might be more difficult for you to concentrate, to focus, to stay focused on your work. It's because some parts of the brain start to function differently. Sometimes there can be some reactions such as freezing, which might make it more difficult for you to focus. If you are feeling as if there is a threat or danger or anxiety or uncertainty, your mind might be interpreting some certain thoughts or feelings or experiences that you see as a danger, and there can be a freezing response, and this makes it more challenging for you to focus. So the good news is that this is not going to stay forever, and you can always learn some strategies how to feel safe, or how to feel normal, less stressed, and you will come back into normal functioning. And most people believe that the problem is focus, or they think that there is a problem with their concentration. But focus is often not the only main problem. Focus is usually the symptoms or challenge that you are experiencing, and the real problem is what happens before focus disappears. And let's look at a common example. For instance, maybe you sit down to work, and maybe you are trying to study, maybe you are trying to write, or you are trying to communicate, to speak, and maybe you are preparing a report. For a brief moment you feel ready, and then your mind begins talking. Maybe you hear some how your mind says that this is too much. What if I fail? What if I can't finish? What if this isn't good enough? And maybe you are having a lot of thoughts at that moment, and oftentimes people even don't notice that these thoughts are present there, and they start to act on autopilot without being aware that this is a thought. And if your awareness is not increased, you will act on these thoughts, and maybe you will distract yourself not to feel these feelings or thoughts, or maybe it's difficult for you to distinguish whether this is a thought or reality, and your brain starts to react as if this is reality, whereas these are just thoughts. So the moment you notice that these are thoughts and not reality, and that all the thoughts do not have to always reflect the reality, or maybe it's just something is triggering you. Maybe the project is too big, and it seems it's as if there is a lot of uncertainty inside, and your mind can be interpreting it as a threat, Is it something that you need to avoid, to run away, and therefore you prefer to distract yourself, to stop doing it, or to do something else? And but your emotional experience has at that moment. Maybe anxiety enters the room, maybe doubt enters the room, maybe pressure enters the room, and maybe you were criticized in the past, and your mind starts to see these thoughts while you are not believing in yourself, or while you are doubting yourself, as if it's critique and trying to keep you away from uncomfortable feelings, or automatically trying to pull you away from possible negative experiences you had in the past, so that you are not going to experience it again. So understanding this moment before procrastination, before distracting yourself, what exactly is happening with you, which thoughts generally arise, which feelings generally arise, and how do you respond to it, and how you would like to respond instead, who do you want to be even in the presence of these uncomfortable feelings and thoughts, are the first steps towards the change, towards understanding yourself. And one of strategies is that you can write down your thoughts or feelings that you have at that moment, and it will make it easier for you to understand what are you running away from, what are you feeling scared, and how you are responding. And oftentimes, my clients, they notice that this way of reacting is not serving them anymore, or the thoughts or feelings that they have, the fears that they have, actually are not present anymore. They are not functioning. They are they belong to the past, or they belong to something that has uh, happened in the past, and they do not actually relate to the current circumstances. And this point of awareness becomes the change. Maybe, for instance, if somebody is afraid of public speaking, maybe something has happened with them in the past. Maybe they were criticized. Maybe there was something wrong that went wrong, but maybe it's not applicable for this situation anymore. But their mind still interprets public speech, or whatever you are trying to do, as something dangerous, or there is a threat, or there is something that you are going to experience negative. But in reality, this doesn't reflect reality. And again, even in the face of these uncomfortable feelings and thoughts and experiences, stresses, what do you want to be? To which direction do you want to walk? And how do you want to respond to these feelings and thoughts are the main questions that would help you to understand what you really want, where you want to go, and how you want to react. And journaling, psychotherapy, speaking, sharing your thoughts, writing down them are among first steps that can be taken to understand yourself better and to take first steps. And because humans naturally move away from discomfort, your attention starts looking for relief. And also, it's important to notice where your attention goes at that very moment when you are trying to procrastinate, when you are trying to distract yourself, or you cannot you cannot focus on certain things. What your mind is telling you? Maybe it tells that it won't be possible for you to focus at all, that you cannot do it, or you would fail. So, what's exactly you are afraid at that very moment, and how useful is it for you to follow these thoughts, to believe these thoughts? And maybe you start to check your phone or answer emails, you organize your desk, you make coffee, you scroll social media, and for a moment you feel better, but as a result, in a long run, this might cause you problems, because you cannot maintain your discipline, you cannot go through your work day, not because the task became easier, but because you escaped the discomfort. So, researchers have found that procrastination is often less about time management and more about emotional management. So, maybe there are certain feelings that are causing you to feel distracted, or to avoid discomfort. Maybe certain feelings are also coded in your brain as something dangerous, as something that needs to be escaped. And so maybe like it's important to understand what exactly causing the problem at that moment. Maybe it's some fusion with some thoughts. Maybe you start to believe that certain thoughts are your identity, or um, they are related with you, or they are reality. Noticing these thoughts and feelings, and uh, finding some strategies to become more more aware of these thoughts and to bear these thoughts, understanding your why. Why would you like to bear this discomfort and how you want to respond to this discomfort are the first steps towards change. So, for instance, if you think that you are going to fail, or if you will make certain mistakes, that people will criticize you, you can find some reasons for public speaking, or for writing, for publishing, for contributing, for teaching, or whatever you are trying to do at that moment. Understanding your motivation, understanding your why this is important for you, and that very point help you to bear this discomfort and to take steps even in the presence of uncomfortable feelings and thoughts. So maybe this would help you to be okay with making some mistakes, but when you understand your why, it will be easier for you to take steps, even knowing that maybe you can make a mistake. Because when you look at long run, after 10 years, what difference would it make for you if you could take small steps, even if knowing that maybe you will make a mistake, maybe you will not be perfect, and what difference would it make for you if you kept avoiding, kept distracting yourself? And when you look from that perspective, sometimes this makes it more bearable. You are becoming more willing to experience discomfort and to act in even in the middle of chaos, stressors, or discomfort. So when you understand how your brain works and how emotions or feelings or thoughts might be pulling you into different directions, you become freer, and you become aware of the choice point that you also have always have the freedom to respond to these uncomfortable feelings differently. And finally, you stop calling yourself lazy or criticizing yourself, and you can use that time or that energy, instead of criticizing, blaming yourself, or overthinking, you can choose to respond differently. And the truth is that many hardworking people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to avoid uncomfortable emotions. And at the end of that avoidance is often productivity. But have you ever noticed this, that the more important a task is, the harder it becomes to start? And that's because important tasks often trigger important emotions. So if you are experiencing very strong emotions, this means that you really care about this project, about your career, about your identity, about your studies, and maybe you are feeling fear, pressure, responsibility, expectations, and the bigger the meaning, the bigger the emotional response. So, if nobody has ever explained that to you before, you might mistakenly assume something is wrong with you, and maybe there isn't the real story. Maybe you are experiencing a normal human response, and the question is, how do we move forward even in the presence of uncomfortable feelings and thoughts, and why is it important for you to take action even in the presence of uncomfortable feelings and thoughts? And how many of you have ever created the perfect schedule plan, a beautiful planner, color coded tasks, maybe detailed calendar, maybe you felt excited, maybe you felt hopeful, and then 3 days later everything collapsed, you forget about your plans. And most people think that this means they need a better plan. Sometimes this might be true, but oftentimes it's also not about the quality of the plan, but about relationship between the plan and reality. Reality is messy, and reality, the present moment or the future, always include bad days, includes stress, includes a lot of factors that you cannot control, and there are unexpected events. It might include low energy, fatigue, frustration, exhaustion, and many plans fail because they are designed for ideal circumstances, not real life. And research on habit formation shows that consistency grows more successfully when behaviors are small, realistic, repeatable rather than ambitious and overwhelming, and also designed according to considering possible obstacles that might arise. And think about this: if someone tells themselves, I'm going to study 4 hours every day, That sounds impressive, but if they currently study 0 hours, it may not be realistic, and the brain experiences the gap as overwhelming. And the better question might be, what's the smallest version of success I can repeat consistently? Maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's opening the book, maybe I often underestimate the power of small beginnings. And small beginnings create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. You feel more capable, and confidence creates consistency, and consistency changes lives. Whereas when you set to big goals for yourself that feel overwhelming, that feel exhausting, and then if you quit and if you cannot do any of them, this might create more stress, more anxiety, and avoidance. Therefore, starting your plans from least possible point from where you can is one of strategies you can try to apply, and you can also share your experiences, challenges you had with it, and also considering possible problems and that might arise. For instance, if A doesn't work, how I can apply plan B. For instance, if I cannot go for workout, maybe I can walk for 15 minutes. If I cannot read the whole chapter, maybe I can read for 5 minutes, 5 pages. So doing the minimum at least will keep you from feeling extremely anxious or feeling guilty, because when you stop completely doing everything, it would be more difficult for you to start over again. And one of greatest barriers to productivity isn't external distraction, it's internal distraction. And generally we spend a lot of time in our heads fighting with our thoughts inside our mind. Imagine, for instance, you have an important task tomorrow. Many people spend evening rehearsing worst case scenarios and thinking, what if I fail? What if everything goes wrong? What if I disappoint people? What if I'm not capable enough? And what if this never works? And notice what happens. You start to focus on possible negative things. And body reacts as if these imagined scenarios are happening right now, and you start to concentrate on possible flaws or difficulties, and this makes stress increase, focus decrease, energy decreases. So, and psychological flexibility research suggests that people function more effectively when they learn to notice difficult thoughts without becoming trapped inside them. So, anytime when you notice that you are focusing on negativities or on what might go wrong, you can start to notice, to shift your attention towards what might be possible. What if everything works out? What if you can concentrate? What if you can perform better? And each time when you notice yourself that your mind is pulling you back towards negativities or towards what can go wrong, you can gently shift your attention towards what might go right, and what you need really to do at that moment. If you are trying to read a book, each time when you notice that you are overthinking or ruminating, you can intentionally pull your attention towards the text and ask yourself, what is this trying to tell me? How I can make the best of use of my time? Or if you are trying to speak, if you have certain thoughts criticizing yourself, you can again intentionally pull your attention towards how you can best explain this meaning towards your audience, how you can contribute to this audience, how you can explain it in the best light. And even if we cannot control automatic thoughts, we can always have the choice to respond to them differently and to increasing our attention by learning to respond to them more intentionally. And thoughts are like little stickers and smudges that constantly appear on the glass. Imagine that you are driving, and some stickers may be bright and harmless, and maybe you think this looks nice, this might go well. Maybe some of them might be alarming. Maybe you have some thoughts such as danger, you will mess this up, turn back now. And some are sticky and repetitive, climbing into the same spot no matter how many times you notice them. And the key point is this: the stickers are on the windshield, not on the road. And even if sometimes when you look to the glass, it seems as if they are on the road, You can still drive, you can still choose direction, you can still notice what's actually in front of you, and this are just stickers, these are just notes. But when you mistake every sticker for part of the road, you start reacting to paint instead of reality, and this becomes the point that is problematic, where distraction happens, where avoidance, procrastination happens. And mental freedom comes from learning. I can see this thought clearly without letting it decide where the car would go. And some thoughts deserve observation, and when we learn the difference, we recover enormous amount of mental energy. And maybe the person sitting here tonight, maybe you feel exhausted, maybe you feel tired, maybe you feel frustrated with yourself. And there is always you can use this, apply these strategies to notice that these thoughts are that just thoughts, they are not reality, and you can learn to respond to them differently. And instead of fighting with them, you can choose to direct your attention, your time, your efforts towards what matters for you, what's important for you. And so the moment everything starts to change is the moment when you realize that these are thoughts, and when you decide what you want to be. I want you to think about one area of your life where you feel stuck. Just one. Maybe you wanted to start certain things, but you were constantly procrastinating. Not your entire life, just one area, and ask yourself, what's the next smallest possible step I can take today or this week? Not the perfect step, not the full solution, the smallest step that you can take. Maybe it's opening the document, maybe it's reading one page, maybe it's setting a time for 10 minutes. So make it as small as possible, because research shows that action often precedes motivation, not the other way around. And oftentimes you will notice that once you take action, you would feel more ready, motivated, you would feel capable. And maybe you don't wait to feel ready. Readiness often follows movement, not before it. And I want you to hear this very clearly. You don't need to become a different person to change your life. You don't need perfect discipline. You don't need perfect focus or concentration. You don't need perfect motivation. You need a willingness to begin imperfectly with what you have, with the circumstances you have, even in the middle of chaos or stress or uncomfortable feelings or thoughts. And most people think they are struggling with productivity or time management, but underneath that, something more important is happening. You are not just trying to manage time, you are trying to build a different relationship with your own life, with time, with efforts, with energy. And when somebody says, I can't focus, I keep procrastinating, I don't trust my ability to stay with discomfort long enough to reach what matters for me, this is actually what's happening. So, what they really say is that they don't have enough skills, maybe yet, or strategies that would make it possible for them to bear discomfort long enough to reach what matters for them. And that changes everything. When you shift the perspective to this, you stop blaming yourself, you stop criticizing yourself, and you can start to search for answers what might help you. Because now the problem is no longer time, the problem is not intelligence, the problem is not discipline, the problem is the internal system that gets activated when life demands sustained effort. And I wanted to ask something different, not as productivity question. What would be different in your life if you started to be a discomfort and to react differently? If you have already started to experience clarity, for instance, or confidence, or calmness, or resilience, not perfect clarity, but enough clarity to begin, to open page, to read few pages, or to start to make plans about your project. And instead of negotiating with your thoughts for hours, you just begin, not because you feel fully ready, but because you are no longer waiting for readiness, and you trust that clarity comes through action, not before it. And according to research on self-regulation and initiation of behavior, consistently shows that action exposure reduces anticipatory anxiety and increases task persistence over time. Now imagine something else. Maybe your mind still gets noisy, there are a lot of thoughts, there are a lot of feelings that come over and over again. You feel familiar pull to escape, you are about to procrastinate. But instead of collapsing into avoidance or procrastination or distraction, something different is happening. You just start to notice it, not as a failure, not as a problem with you, but as a moment of the mind doing what your minds do. And instead of obeying every internal signal, you return, not dramatically, not perfectly, just one small return back to the task, back to the next step. And each time when you notice that you are being pulled away, you still choose to continue taking small steps again and again. And you realize this ability that anytime when you are pulled away, you still can bring your attention towards your task, towards your page, towards your speech. And this is one of strongest predictors of long-term functioning in attention, productivity, and emotional resilience. So instead of reviewing the day through self-criticism, you review it through movement, not perfection, movement, and asking what actually moved forward today, what went well, what helped me to succeed, and what was there, and evidence of success in the past, in the times when you succeeded to continue despite discomfort, or when you were able to complete your task, what was helping you, what was there about you, which strategies, routines, environments, or mindset was helping you to achieve that version of you, and what difference would it make if you started to use these strategies again? What would you notice about yourself? How would you feel? What would other people notice about you? So at any time when you have some thoughts such as I don't follow through, or maybe you couldn't complete all the tasks, you can always tell a different story to yourself and notice, like when you have self-critical thoughts, you can redirect your attention towards what works, and you can remind yourself that I can return, I can try again. And this shift isn't small because it's identity level change. And most people think that productivity means doing more, being faster, being more disciplined, but psychologically it's not what sustainable productivity is built on. Sustainable productivity is built on three core processes. First of them is your ability to stay present with discomfort without escaping it, your ability to choose values over short-term emotional relief, your ability to restart after interruption without self-punishment. When these three processes strengthen, productivity becomes inevitable, a side effect, not a struggle. And these processes are consistent with modern process-based therapy models, emphasizing cross-situational psychological processes rather than symptoms level change. So let's define your desired outcome in a more detailed and precise way now. Not like as a fantasy, not as a perfect version of you, but as a realistic psychological shift. Your desired outcome is not never procrastinating again, never overthinking again, never losing focus again. It's not humanly realistic. Your desired outcome is when your mind generates resistance, you no longer automatically obey it. You start when discomfort appears, you no longer immediately escape it, or you learn to respond to it in ways that would serve your long-term goals and would get you closer towards the version of you that you want to achieve. And maybe you will not collapse into self-judgment. Instead, you can notice, you can return, you can continue. And because many of you listening right now are now struggling because, not because you lack information, you already what you need to do, what you should do, and what you are missing is not knowledge, it's tolerance of the internal experience that shows up when you try to do it. And that is the real barrier, and it's trainable. All of us, we can learn to respond differently. So I hope that this session was helpful for you. I tried to share with you research that is relevant with the struggles you might be having, and I tried to share some strategies and questions you can Ask yourself from different approaches such as process-based therapy, acceptance commitment therapy, solution-focused brief therapy. And if you have any further questions, please welcome to leave your questions in the comments. I'm always glad to support you and to research and answer to your questions. And if you need even further support, you're always welcome to come to psychotherapy, where we can discuss about the challenges you are experiencing and the change you want to see in more details. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and share this video with people whom you think might benefit. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next videos again, and take good care of yourself.